Hello and welcome back to Trucking Panthers. Please like and subscribe, it's totally free and will help me to keep making better and better content. My name is Will and today I have a passenger to drop off in Stroud. So we start about 4 o'clock in the afternoon in Chertsey, heading west to Stroud. We're bobtailing at the moment, we have no trailer on, but sit tight as this journey takes an unexpected turn. first bit of commentary for the first hazard that we find, which is a lorry coming round the corner in the middle of the road. Luckily, we were well below the speed limit, so we were able to stop in time and did not need to go up the curb, but that's a warning. Right, this is where things start to go a little awry. There were road closed signs ahead and to my right, so I made a bad decision, which I wouldn't have made if I had a trailer on, but I decided to follow the route that my sat-nav was showing me, which turned out it took us through a village called Minchinhampton, which is definitely not designed for trucks the size of mine. We had access rights, but I should have probably gone the entire way round, and you live and learn. So the whole journey up till now has been a case of just praying that the roads don't get any tighter than they are. Unfortunately, they do, and we have cars parked here, which I can fairly comfortably get through at the moment, but I can see it getting worse up ahead. I can also see a car coming, so I'm going to need to pull in. Um, While I'm waiting for the car to come past, I'm surveying up ahead and I can see that it's going to be unbelievably tight. It's going to be a case I'm going to need to fold the mirrors in. I'm going to need to use my passenger to look on the left-hand side, which I'm now doing at the moment. I'm asking him to keep an eye. We keep going and I'm squeezing past, making sure that obviously I don't hit the cars and making sure that I don't do any damage to the truck. I can hear the branches of the trees on the top of the truck, and obviously I can hear bits squeaking past on the right as well. But it's a case we just need to keep going because we're committed now. Um, Obviously, if it got to the point where I couldn't get through, I would need to stop, but I can see that I can. It's just incredibly tight. There's also a hidden sign on the right here and a pole, which makes things even more tricky, but luckily it's at the end of the line of cars, so I can start to go left a bit. The cars up ahead have wisely waited, as they can see. Look, their route is entirely blocked, so they hold up for us. And at this point, a location truck, much smaller one than ours, goes past and he's pointing in the other direction. However, as comes with experience of doing these things, there can be many different locations very near to each other. And I know that our location is not to the left. So I carry on. I could have probably bailed out to the left, which maybe he was saying. Now you can see the shadow on the road. You can see how large we are compared to the road, and the car in front gets a bit of a shock when it comes round the corner, but wisely retreats as the road does widen a little, and we can squeeze past there. We then have to wait for the location truck, which is turning into a very tight turning. Again, it's not ideal for his vehicle, but we're actually we're wider than he is. He's longer than us because we haven't got a trailer on at the moment. The pedestrian could have maybe been a little bit more aware there. But I've I believe the truck driver spotted him at the end. But again, we need to plough on. Luckily, we haven't had too much traffic coming the other way, which would have resulted in a big hold up, because once you're in a situation like this, you just want to get out of it as quick as possible. So we're right in the centre of Minchinhampton now. There's a little post office. We turn up and there's what I believe is a Second World War monument in the middle of the town, and it's actually quite tight to get past. Again, if I'd have had a trailer on, this would have been extremely difficult, but I like to believe I would not have been here had I had a trailer on. So it feels like we are reaching the end of the really tight bits, although we do have one more squeeze point coming up. But once again, we've been incredibly fortunate and there is no traffic. So we can get straight up here, and I can see on the sat nav that a much bigger road lies ahead. So at this point, it's pretty much sheer relief, as it feels like things are becoming much more spaced out and we're going to hit a larger road. So lesson learned, I should have ignored the sat nav and stuck on the main road till I found a larger road to go round, which actually would have meant I had to do a complete loop round to the other side, but that would have been sensible. So no harm, no foul, but was not the ideal way to go. So the end of our first leg, we drop our passenger off and then head for Bristol to pick up a train. pick up an artist trailer and head for our final drop point in Bath. So I arrive at the final destination where I just need to drop my trailer and help set up the base. I then need to wait a couple of hours for my passenger to turn up so I can drive us home. Unfortunately, the M4 is closed, so we need to drive across to the 303 and it is now dark. this point, my passenger and I start arguing about where Stonehenge might appear on our left. I get it right as I've driven this road so many times.
There it is.
That brings us towards the end of the video, so I'll say goodbye for now.